Have you ever been sitting there eating Pop-Tarts and drinking a soda and you got so mad at somebody that you started throwing your strawberry Pop-Tarts and your Coke at their car as they were driving away? Is that just me? I've been meaning to tell this story for a very long time. I have a list on my whiteboard here of all the stories I need to tell. This has been up there for a very, very long time. So why am I telling it now? We were having this discussion on a WhatsApp with some friends that I have, and somebody was in Utah posting pictures. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. What you doing there? They went up there for work. And I was like, wow, I used to live in Utah. And they were like, what? I said, yeah, well, I lived in Utah for a year. And they said, well, how did you end up there? Because I mostly lived in LA. And I said, you know what? I'll tell that story. That's the Vivian story that's on the list. So here we are. We're going to tell this story. It's going to be long. I don't know how long it's going to be until I start editing this. If it's too long, I'm going to break this up into multiple parts. It's a very long, somewhat crazy story. I have a lot of notes. I can tell this story without the notes because I lived it, but I want to make sure I hit certain points. I'm also going to be leaving out certain details and a lot of the bad things that happened because they're not really relevant to the story. But if you know me personally and you want to hear some of those bad things and to see how we got from there to here, then come talk to me personally. I'm not going to put any of that on the internet. It's not just going to be about me and Vivian. There's other people involved in this story. So they're going to be woven into this story as well to kind of give a little bit of context. So the way I was as a teenager, first of all, I was a bad kid. I was like really bad. I looked clean cut. I wore nice clothes, but I was the worst person out of all my friends, out of everybody I knew. I was really bad. The way that I was with girls was I would just walk up to random strangers on the street. Hey, excuse me, want to go out? Or like in Burbank, there's a line outside of Tommy's because that's an outside Tommy's. We'd be riding bikes past there. I would just stop and look at the chicks in the line and be like, hey, excuse me, you want to get married? And Richie and Danny and those guys would be with me and they'd be like, you're nuts, you're crazy. But if I saw a girl I liked, I would just go talk to them. My mind was so messed up that in my mind, I did not want any of the guys in the world to have any girls. I wanted all the girls for myself. If you had a girlfriend, I was jealous and I would either try and steal your girlfriend or something. I did not think you should have a girlfriend. That's a really messed up mind. I was the type of guy that if you were a heavy metal chick, I would dress that certain way and I would go try and make you my girlfriend. If you were like a Sochi type of chick, I would dress a certain way. Like when I met Vivian, I was wearing white pants, a white shirt, a white swatch, a members only jacket. But it depended on what girl did I want to go out with that I dressed that way and I acted a different way. Don't do that. Be yourself. I was playing like an actor. I was playing parts simply to get the girl. I was pretending to be somebody that I wasn't specifically to get that particular girl. Pretty much this entire story takes place when I was about 14-ish. So of course I still lived with my parents and my parents knew how I was. Believe it or not, I used to have braces. I was at one of the regular appointments at the orthodontist with my mom. She was sitting next to me to my right. And I was sitting in a chair and I was just chilling. Usually, you know, they got the magazines, you read the magazines and stuff. This was just a regular appointment for like a tightening or something. And I usually didn't read those magazines. They were all like dumb, like People and Self, whatever they had at that time. That I'm not interested in that. There was a girl, it's a little weird to the camera, to my right across the, what do you call it? It's like a U-shaped waiting room. She was sitting across and kind of diagonal from where we were. And I was sitting there checking her out. And even my mom asked me, she goes, how come you're not over there talking to that girl? And I was like, I don't know. Like, my mom even knew the way I was. Like, why am I not over there talking to this girl? She ain't with a guy. I should be over there talking to her. She was reading a magazine. She kept looking up at me, and then I would just kind of like, you know, be kind of checking her out. She'd put the magazine back in front of her face, and it was kind of funny. So she knew, you know, I should have probably went over there and talked to her. They call her in, and I'm like, man, I should have talked to that chick. Why didn't I do that? It was kind of weird how, because even my mom asked me, it was weird how I'm not talking to this girl. So a few minutes later, they call me in, and I'm sitting in the thing, and I'm just chilling, waiting for the lady or the guy to come in. I'm chilling. This lady walks in, one of the dental assistants, and she comes in and she hands me this piece of paper. I said, what is this? And she goes, this is from the young lady in the other room. And I was like, whoa. And it was the chick's phone number. That was pretty funny. That was really funny, because usually I'm the one doing that. She did it to me. I thought that was hilarious. Vivian was some type of Latina. For some reason, I'm thinking Argentina is what they mentioned at one point. I don't remember, but she was some type of Latina, and she had fair skin. But once we started going out, her family didn't like me because I was white. My family just never liked any of my girlfriends. It did not matter what they looked like. They did not like them at all. She was older than me. She also had a car. I think she was 17 at the time. She had a 1978 Dodge Colt. It was white with blue trim with a white interior. We would just go out cruising, and we would mostly cruise around Hollywood or go to the beach, somewhere that's free or cheap. We really didn't do stuff like go to the movies or go out to eat. We mostly just hung out together. I always drove. I drove everybody's cars. Now keep in mind my age. I had no driver's permit. I had no driving license, but I always drove everybody's cars. I drove her car all over the place. So how did I learn how to drive? So we're going to take a step backward for a second. I did not have a dad when I was young. So my mom got me a big brother from the Big Brothers organization. It's guys that will take young men under their wing and teach them how to be men because you don't have a dad. It's a very important thing to have a dad in your life if you're a boy. So this is a really good organization. My mom got me my big brother when I was about 10 years old. His name was Hank. I would love to do a video about him and our time together and all the stuff we did. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. Hank worked at a used car dealership in Burbank. And I went there in one of my vacation videos where I went to Burbank and I was walking around and talking about some stuff. I'll put that link in the description. It was at the big intersection, cornered from Corner Cottage Restaurant. And at that time it was called Allen Auto. The short version is I ended up working there. Even when I was 10, I was washing the cars. They would pay me cash. When I was 11, they finally put me on the payroll. But what happened was, because you have to move the lot around when you're washing the cars, you want to change the lot. So when people are driving by, it's not just all the same cars sitting there all the time. They got sick of me asking them, hey, can you get the keys to that car and move this and do this? They said, we're teaching you how to drive. And I would drive on the lot. And then Hank would take me bowling everywhere, all over Southern California. And he would also take me golfing. Now, for some reason, we would go to Arcadia to go golfing. I don't know why that is. I know he was from there. He lived there. I don't know if it was because he knew people. That's a whole long story. The whole Hank story I want to tell someday. It's not that important for me to tell it. I really want to tell the Vivian story. When we would go golfing, he had an old Galaxy 500, a big, huge rammer car. And he would let me drive it up and down the street like I'm driving it. And he taught me how to drive on the street. And then when he was driving, because it had a bench seat, I would sit next to him and I would steer and I would do the turn signals and I would do reverse and drive and everything. The only thing he would do would be the brake and the gas. And I would actually be, you know, looking at the mirrors and everything and looking over my shoulder and go, hey, we need to change lanes. He'd be like, okay, go ahead. And I'd turn the turn signal on and I would change lanes and I would do everything except for the pedals. So that's how I learned how to drive. That was at 10 years old. I've been driving on the street ever since then. From what I remember, her car only had an AM radio with the little round speaker in the dash. And it was like, okay, well, there's nothing on AM. She had a boombox in the back seat. And what we would do before we were cruising is we'd put a cassette in there or turn the radio station to what we wanted to listen to. And we would cruise with the radio in the back seat. And it worked great. At this time, I'm already a metalhead. Danny used to come cruising with us all the time, so he would sit in the back seat and run the radio. He put his music in there, which was somewhat similar to Vivian's music. He would play The Cure, Love Cats, Soft Cell, Sex Dwarf, The Cure, Let's Go to Bed. And that type of music. Now, I've never heard this music before. This is Danny's music. And even though I grew up with Danny, I was not familiar with this stuff. I was a metalhead. So it was kind of funny, but it worked. It was great to cruise to. Vivian loved it. It was just cool. And it was cool having Danny with us. Me and Richie at night would always go out somewhere. I would go to his house. He lived in the garage. He had a pool table. We would stay up late and party all night. We would go joyriding in my parents' car sometimes. We would roll it on Grismer. We'd roll it all the way down the alley to the end of the alley before we even started it up. We would do all kinds of stuff at night. We'd go riding our bikes all over town. We were always out late at night, causing trouble, doing something, usually partying. Most of the time, we would walk from Grismer in Burbank over to Western in Glendale, because that's where Vivian lived. And we would pick up her car and drive that all night. So me and Richie would go cruising all night. We'd do the same thing. We'd go to Hollywood, we'd go to the beach, because the beach you can go hang out at Santa Monica Pier. You can just go cruise Hollywood and, you know, look at the hookers or the tourists or the weirdos. It was entertaining just to go to Hollywood and look at the people. A few times what we did was we would go to Jamie the girl's house. Yes, I was driving my girlfriend's car looking for another girlfriend. Now, I had previously met her, and I only went out with her for 1 month. After we broke up, I went out with some of her other friends. That's another story for another day. I've told some of that story before. I've actually told most of that story before. If I find it on the internet, because I have no idea where it is, I'll put that link in the description too. I don't even know if it's on YouTube. I'll have to look. We would drive to Jamie the girl's house. It'd be like 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. I would knock on her bedroom window, and she would come to the window, and I would always ask her, do you have a boyfriend? She would say, yeah. And I'm like, okay, you need to let me know when you don't have a boyfriend. She's like, okay. And then her mom would tell her, you need to go out with that guy. And she was like, really? You want me to go out with this guy? She's like, yeah, he's a nice boy. He's clean cut. See, parents never knew how I really was. I would play a game with people's parents. I had the ability, if you were in trouble and you were grounded, I had the ability to go to your house and go, excuse me, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so, I understand what this person right here did was wrong. We had plans for tonight, and it would really be awesome if you could let them out so we could go do what we said we were supposed to be doing tonight, and I will have them home at whatever time you say. And they would say, okay, that's fine. We trust you because you're a nice, clean-cut, honest boy. You go out with John. You guys can go do whatever you said you were going to do because you had previous engagements, and I don't want to mess up his night. Make sure he's back by 10 o'clock. I'll be like, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. We would go raise hell all over the San Fernando Valley. I'd make sure you're home at 9:59. And then your parents would be like, what a responsible young man. They had no clue. Her mom was like that. She was like, you need to go out with this boy right here. And she's like, Mom, He's knocking on the window at 2 in the morning. What kind of guy is that? But Jamie the girl, she knew the real me. She knew me. No other girls and none of my other girlfriends knew the real me. I was playing the part. She knew the real me. But there was multiple times where we would go knock on her window. Hey, do you have a boyfriend? Yeah. And then we would talk for a little bit out the window, and then we'd say later, and me and Richie would go cruising. There was one time where I knocked on her window and she didn't get up, her sister did. This was around the time the Night Stalker was going around, and I knocked on the window, and her sister came to the window and started screaming. She went and woke up her mom, and she was like, that's just John. But it was a whole bad thing because she's screaming, and it's like 3 in the morning, and I was like, oh. But I got to see Jamie the girl, and I said, do you have a boyfriend? She said, yes. I said, okay, you need to let me know when you don't. Every time I saw her, that was my question. Because I had already made up in my mind. I really loved her, and I regretted breaking up with her. She was so awesome. I don't care if I had a girlfriend. I don't care if I'm 20, 30, or 50. I don't care if I'm married. I don't care if I have kids. This is what I'm saying in my own mind. I don't care what my life is like. The moment she's single, I'm going to ask her out. Whether she says yes or no is a different story. But that was in my mind. I want her to be with me the rest of my life. I regretted it from the moment I broke up with her that we broke up. I know I'm talking a lot about Jamie the girl, and this is the Vivian story, but this is the backstory to some of this stuff. I really, in my life, as time went on, it ate away at me. No matter what girl I was with, I always had her in the back of my mind, like, my life is never going to be complete, ever. I don't care if I'm married and I have kids and dogs and a house. My life will never be complete because she's not in it. I brought that up because later in life, when I was still with Vivian, there was one time we were in McDonald's in Burbank on San Fernando Road, and we were waiting in line. I don't remember if she was behind us or in front of us. Jamie the girl was standing there with her boyfriend. I knew her boyfriend too. I grew up with him. And I remember either she turned around and looked at me, or I turned around and I looked at her, and I saw her standing there, and I went like this to not say anything, because if she would have said something, Vivian would have turned around and there would have been a fist fight right there in McDonald's. That's how she was, very jealous. I was jealous all the time too. But that was the only time besides me going to her window that I ever saw her like out and about, and that was in McDonald's. And after that, I didn't see her for quite a while after that. But me and Vivian, we had a toxic relationship. She's Latina, I'm mostly Italian, but I'm white, and it was like on and off all the time, fighting all the time. So there was this one time we were on Grismer, and this is after we moved to number 7. And when I say Grismer, we used to live in the big condos, and when I went to visit Burbank in one of my recent vacations, a couple years before I'm making this video right here, I went and told some stories out in front of Grismer. When we first moved there, now there's a gate there, you can't even go there. We used to live in 21 for maybe a month, then we moved across the alley to number 7. So we lived in number 7, and now there's these gates. You can't drive into the place, but you used to be able to drive in and go down the alleyway to where the garages are, and we always were hanging out in the garage. So Vivian came there, and we're hanging out, and we had some type of argument. I know Richie was there. I don't know about Danny. And I'm eating Pop-Tarts and drinking a Coke. And for some reason, we start fighting for whatever reason. She gets in her car. I'm just so angry at her for I don't even remember why. And I start throwing my food at her car, and I nailed it with the Coke. And I just threw Pop-Tarts at her car, and I was like, my friends are looking at me. My friends knew how I was. Richie will tell you a story saying, yeah, when we used to hang out, because we grew up together. I mean, we're like best friends. Me, him, Richie, Danny, Jamie the guy, and Big Rich. We all grew up together. Richie always tells people, we used to keep our distance from you even when we were in public, because they knew I was going to get in some type of trouble. I was going to get in a fight with some random stranger on the street. Something was always going to happen. I was a troublemaker. This is the same thing with a girl. We're just fighting all the time. So me and Vivian, we plan on running away. We had this plan of what are we going to do. While we're making this plan, I go to the Grismer house to do something because we were out kind of cruising, and she had one of her friends in the car. We were cruising with her. She decides to let her friend try and drive. She's never driven before. They're on Grismer and they run into a telephone pole in her car. Now back then we didn't wear seatbelts. The whole front of her car, the front bumper was like a V, like this. Vivian came out of her seat and hit her head right here on the window. So she's got this big bump on her head, and now there's this like round thing with like a crack, like a spider web looking thing. And I'm like, I was so angry at her friend. I was angry at her for letting her friend drive, but I was angry at her friend for doing it because we're planning on using this car to run away. Now it looks like a ghetto car, and I was so angry. I'm like, you got to blend in when you're doing bad stuff as a kid. Like when I was driving, you got to just blend in. You always use your turn signals and everything. Make sure all your lights work. You never get pulled over if you blend in. How are we going to blend in with this car now? Where are we going to go? Vivian had an aunt that lived in Chicago, and she said, well, let's go to Chicago and knock on her door and see if we can live there. And I'm like, let's go. Let's just get out of here together. We want to just stay together. Our families hate everything. Let's just go. I didn't really have a detailed map. I knew how the United States worked as far as like all the horizontal freeways are even numbers, and they work from the bottom up, 10, 20, 40, and you get to the top, there's 80. This way, going across from California to New York goes, 5, 15, then you get to like Dallas, it's like 35, then you get over here, it's like 75, 85, 95, all the way to the side. I already knew that structure of the United States, but I wasn't sure which way to go. So out of my head, we knew, let's go to Sacramento up the 5, and then we'll go all the way across the 80 to Chicago to go right to Chicago. We're like, okay, that's what we're doing. There's a shorter way to get there from LA, but this is the way that I knew out of my head. Straight line, straight up, straight across. Let's do that. As we're going across the 80, every time we stopped, we filled out job applications because we had decided if anybody hires us, we just stay there and live there. We're just going to live wherever people hire us, and that's it. Start a whole new life wherever that may be. And we did that all the way across the country, all the way to Chicago. We even filled out applications in Chicago while we were there. We get to Vivian's aunt's house in Chicago, and she's like, no, you guys ain't staying here. You guys are runaways. I don't want you here. I mean, she was a nice lady, but I understand now that I'm an adult. She's like, no, I don't want you here. We're like, look, we'll work, we'll pay rent, we'll do whatever you want. She was like, no, you guys need to go back home. You can't be here. You can't just come here and be like, hey, can we live with you? She didn't like that. I get that now that I'm an adult, but okay. So we're in Chicago. We have like no money left. We used all our money going across the country buying gas and stuff. We always slept in the car. We never got hotels. We were like really cheap with the money. And it's like, well, what are we going to do? So, we're just kind of driving around Chicago, filling out applications. She gets angry because she's a very high dollar girl. She's got to have her nails done and all that stuff. Vivian's a very high dollar girl. So she was like, let's just go back to California. I'm like, okay, let's just go. But we're out of money. I have my own bank account, but it's under my mom. She has access to my money, but it's my account. I don't remember if we had an ATM card or not. There were ATMs around. It was not as big of a thing as it is like now. And even now, you just use your card for everything. We used to have to go to the ATM, we'd get cash, and then we'd pay cash. I don't remember having something like that. So I called my mom because we have no money. I said, Mom, can you send me some of my money somehow? And she goes, where are you? I'm in Chicago. She's like, what the heck are you doing? I said, we're looking for a place to live. I can't be at home. Now keep in mind, the first time I ran away, I was 5. So this isn't the first time this has happened. This is just a bigger version. I ran away when I was 5, 6, 9, 11, 12. I could never live with my parents. I never got along with my parents. The last time I was telling stories on Old Lamer Street, I told the story of I didn't really run away, but I went with the neighbors to Vegas. I left a note for my mom. Mom, I'm in Vegas. I'll be back after the weekend. And she was so angry. This isn't really that big of a surprise. It's just on a grander scale. So she was like, okay, I'll send you $300. It's your own money. Where exactly are you? And I told her where we were, and she was like, okay, this is all on a payphone. Keep in mind, there's no cell phones, no nothing at this time. She calls me back on the payphone. She goes, okay, look, there's a Western Union that's somewhat close to you. You got to get there. I'm like, okay, that's no problem. Send the money there and we'll go pick it up. So me and Vivian are trying to make our way across town to get to this Western Union, and I keep running in. I'm driving. I keep running into the L train pillar things. We be driving, and it's like all of a sudden the road kind of ends. I'm like, we don't really know where we're going. We just know the direction we're going, and we found the street that we needed to be on, but it didn't go through all the time. It kept ending, and you had to go around. I guess if you know the city, you don't have to do that. We didn't know where we were going. We're running out of gas. I keep making this wrong turn and getting on this toll road. We're out of money. We have like change. And we're like, okay, let's throw the change in the bucket. We keep going. I said, we need to get off. We need to go that way. We go back around, and I'm like, we need to hit that street right there. And we'd go to hit that street, and I'd miss. For whatever reason I missed, got back on the toll road. I'm like, we're going to run out of money. We're already out of money. Anyway, we're down to like pennies and nickels now. We did that like 2 times. I'm like, this is killing us. We finally get to where we're kind of on the right track. We're cruising, and now it's like late at night. This is really late at night now, like 11 or 12 at night. There's no one around. It's dark. We're in the middle of Chicago. We can see the sign for Western Union. Big yellow sign lit up. We run out of gas. We can see it. I mean, it's not even a mile. It's not even like, it's maybe a quarter mile or less. It's like right there. And I'm like, dang, we're in this bad neighborhood. And the neighborhood looked like New York with like the brownstones, like those stairs that are like in front of the apartment. All these people are just sitting out there. And this reminds me of downtown LA where you buy your drugs, where you drive by and you're like, and they come out to your car and you do like a quick little exchange and you can buy drugs. This is what this neighborhood looked like. This was bad. I'm with this hot chick. We have no money. We're out of gas. We're going to get money. We don't have anything to put gas in. So we open the trunk. We get like a water jug, like a gallon water jug. There was nothing in it. And we walk down the street. I'm like, I hope the car's still there when we get back. This is bad. This is really, really bad. We get to Western Union. We get the money. I now have $300 cash in my pocket. I'm like, sweet. How are we going to get gas though? And we still need to get back to the car without getting robbed, without getting beat up, without getting the car stolen. What are we going to do? We turn around. We're walking out the door. And as soon as my hand hit the door and opened it, this cop car comes. It's like a movie scene, and it skids. It's got a black guy and a white guy cop, and they go, get in the car right now. I was like, oh man, we're in trouble. We're runaways. We're in trouble. So we get in the back seat, and they're like, what are you guys doing in this neighborhood? I'm like, we ran out of gas. That's the car right there. Like, you could see it down the street. They're like, we saw you got money. Everybody else probably saw you got money. You're going to get robbed. You're in a really, really bad neighborhood. And I'm like, well, what are we supposed to do? And they said, well, what happened? I said, we ran out of gas right there. We're coming here to get money. We need money. We're out of money. And they said, okay. They took us in the back of their cop car to go get gas. They got us a gallon of gas. They brought us back to the car, helped us pour it into the car. They then followed us to the gas station to put gas in the car. They then told us, follow us to the police station. We need to see if you're runaways. And I'm like, dang, we are runaways, but I just talked to my mom, so how is this going to work? Keep in mind, I'm driving the car. I have no driver's license, no driver's permit, nothing. We follow them to the police station. We go in there. They make her call her mom. They didn't make me call my mom. I thought that was kind of strange because I was actually younger than her, but I don't know if it was because I was a guy. I called my mom anyway. And I just wanted to tell her we got the money, so I called her up. She's like, where are you? And I said, we're at the police station. And that wasn't the right thing to say. She didn't like that. She goes, what are you doing at the police station? I said, nothing. They're helping us. We ran out of gas. They're helping us. I just wanted to tell you we got the money and we're on our way home. She was like, okay, fine. And that was the end of that conversation. So me and Vivian, we get back in the car and we're like, let's get the heck out of here. And I said in my own head, I never, ever, the rest of my life will never on purpose go back to Chicago. And I haven't been back there since. The good thing about being in Chicago, I saw Lake Michigan. I thought it was interesting because it was so big. It was a lot bigger than I thought it would be. It looked like the ocean. And it was choppy when we were there. And we were driving, I don't know the name of the street, but we were driving like along Lake Michigan on the side of Chicago. Like, it was really cool. I mean, it was cool seeing this stuff and experiencing this stuff. But after that bad stuff happened, I said, I'm never going back there again. I'm going to break in here for a second. I'm going to do this throughout the video. This is Chicago. This is the road that goes along Lake Michigan. This is Lake Michigan right here. It is ginormous. It's bigger than I thought. I mean, you see it on a map, it's this big. And I know it's big, but I didn't know it was that big. So I'm going to go down here and see if I can see what this looks like. All I remember is we're driving along the water and we're by the big downtown buildings. And we were like right next to the water. So this is what I was talking about in Chicago. We were driving next to the lake. Look, if you look this way, look at it. It's like as far as you can see, you can't even see the other side. It was huge. It was also, I remember it was very choppy, but we were like driving where all the buildings were like right there. We drove down this whole thing. I don't even remember why we were here or what we were looking for. Somehow we made it to her aunt's house, but let me zoom out even more. We drove like along this whole thing down here. And I remember we went like way down to the bottom. We went like way down here somewhere for whatever reason. I don't know if that's where her aunt lived or whatever. But we drove. It was cool driving that because you could see all that stuff, but it was crazy, especially now. It's probably better now with GPS and all kinds of stuff like that. Plus, we were just kids. We had no idea what we were doing. But it was cool being able to be there. I've never gone back because of that incident. So if you type in Western Union, I was trying to find the exact one just for fun for this video. I clicked on every single one of these that I can find. I zoomed out and went, like, if you search again, more will pop up. I clicked on all of them in the entire area, south and north. I couldn't find it because I just remember what the outside looked like, and it had a little parking lot in front. A lot of these don't. They're like, you know, pawn shops with a Western Union inside or something like that. They're all in like like on a corner. This was like in a little strip mall. That's all I remember. It was at a corner, but it had a little parking lot. None of these did. But I just thought it'd be fun to show the real one. I couldn't find it, but I thought I'd say that. So now we're heading back toward California. We're going back on the 80. Now we're on the 80 West, heading back. And the shorter way to get back is to cut down the 15, somewhere around Salt Lake City is where the 80 and the 15 meet. And then you go down the 15 through Utah, and then that'll connect down in California. It goes past Vegas and stuff, and then you can get back to California that way. That's the way we should have went. That's the shorter distance, but we didn't know, so we went up and across. Now we're going across, now we're going diagonal toward LA, kind of toward Vegas. We're on the 15 south. So I'm driving. All this time, we're either sleeping in the car or we're hardly ever sleeping. We just want to make good time to California. We had decided that when we get back to California, we're just going to break up because this just is not working. We're on the 15 in Utah. I fall asleep at one point and I run off the road, and we ran through some type of big freeway sign. She wakes up and I pull over, and she was like, "What the heck was that?" I said, "I just fell asleep and ran off the road." And she was like, "Maybe we should pull over and go to sleep." And I was like, "Well, now I'm awake. Now I'm awake." So we get back on the road. We're cruising more. She's awake now. We're just kind of hanging out. We both get kind of tired. We pull off the road, and it's just pitch black. We're in the middle of Utah. Utah's a nice state, though. And we pull off, and we can't really see anything, but there's this dirt lot, a big, huge dirt lot with some semis parked in it. We pull in there, and we fall asleep. We're sleeping all night. We wake up in the morning. We're in a place called Fillmore, Utah. And we're in a dirt lot next to a hotel. It has outside rooms too. It wasn't all inside rooms. There were some outside rooms, but it wasn't a motel, it's a hotel. And she speaks Spanish, and she looks over and she sees the maid cleaning the outside room. She goes, "I'm going to go ask her if we could use one of the rooms to take a shower." I'm like, "Look, we're 10 hours from home. We're somewhere around 10 hours from home. Let's get back on the road. We're home today. We're home in 10 hours today. We break up, we're done." And she's like, I gotta have a shower." I'm like, "Look, let's just go. Let's just go pee. Let's go. Let's get out of here." So anyway, she goes to talk to the maid in Spanish. She had asked her to give us like one of the dirtier rooms so that we don't mess up one of the clean ones. We just want to take a shower real quick. We'll get out and leave them alone. And she was really nice. She actually gave us one of the rooms she already cleaned. And Vivian takes a shower, I take a shower, we get all cleaned up, we're ready to get back on the road. The maid, she's out there, she gives us money to eat breakfast in the restaurant of the hotel. This is the Best Western Hotel in Fillmore, and the restaurant was called the Paradise Inn Cafe. It was this is nice. So we go there to eat breakfast. We filled out job applications just like we have been doing all over the country. Every time I filled out a job application, they asked for 3 references at the bottom or on the back. I always put like Richie or Jamie the guy or sometimes Danny. This one I put my mom. Now you're probably thinking that's a stupid thing to do. My mom has a different name than me, a different last name. So I figured they wouldn't make any connection to that. She has a whole different thing. So I'm just putting things on there. I didn't know if they would call these people or not. Now, what I'm about to say, we did not know this information until way later in life. The manager called our references. She talked to my mom and said, "Hey, they're here in Utah and they're filling out job applications. What would you like us to do?" And my mom said, "Keep them. If they want to stay there, let them stay there. You can hire them." So now I don't know if that's legal because I'm underage, not under 18, but like under the work age. But because they had her permission, they hired us. They hired me and her. I thought that was hilarious. Now we don't know any of this information until later in life. They also knew our real ages. Now I always put I was 18 or 19. Whenever I had a fake ID, now I didn't have a fake ID at this point, but later in life I did. I never made myself 18. I would always make myself 19. If I wanted to buy alcohol, I would never make myself 21. I'd make myself 22. It's too obvious to do the exact ages. I didn't have a fake ID yet, but I always told people I was 18. I don't want to get in trouble, so I'm 18. Little did I know, they know our real ages. Now this town at that time was very small, and it had a total population of 2,000. It was one of those little towns where like everybody knew everybody talked about everybody in town knew about us and our situation. Now we didn't know this. We didn't know any of this information till later. So we start working at this restaurant. I was a dishwasher and she was a server. And it worked out really good. We were making pretty decent money. This job that we had, this place where we worked at this hotel, this was the biggest job that you can have in this whole town. Now they had gas stations and I worked at a body shop at one point and a gas station at one point. There were other jobs in town, but this was, if you worked here at this hotel at this moment in time, that's the biggest job in town that you could have. That's where you were making good money if you worked there. We couldn't afford to live in the hotel. Plus, we had just got these jobs, but we still had some of the money left over that my mom gave us. So we went down the street. There was a motel. It was like a U shape. I don't remember exactly where it was, but we stayed there for quite a while. I tried to find some of these places on Google Maps, but I don't remember where some of the places are. We lived there for a little bit, and then one of the ladies we worked with, she was getting married and she was going to move. And she was like, you can have my old place. Now, she lived in a trailer park in a pink, single-wide, one-bedroom trailer. So we go over there. This is a pink trailer. We go over there and we talk to the owners. They own the trailer park. And we didn't have enough money for like first and last month's rent or deposit or whatever it was. We made enough money to pay rent. So I told the owner, I was like, look, I don't know what numbers I told him, but let's just say it was $500 a month rent. I said, look, we can pay $500 a month rent. That's no problem. We can't get the deposit or the first and last. So if you let us live here, if you make the rent $600 a month, and we pay you $600 a month for 5 months, and after that 5 months, you now lower it back down to $500 a month, you'll get your $500 over the course of 5 months. And they were like, wow, that's pretty smart. We'll go for that. See, that's why I was saying I had the ability to talk to your parents and get you out and get you out of trouble. I had the ability to talk to people and finagle people and lie to people and totally shyster people. Like, I don't know how I did it. I just had that ability with people. So this is the 15 South right here where the mouse is. And you're coming down here and you end up in Fillmore. This is Fillmore, Utah, where this grassy area is. This is the city. This is it. That's the whole city right there. That's it. But if you zoom in, it still says it. It still says Best Western Paradise Inn and Resort. Oh, now it's a resort. It's so fancy. So fancy. But if you look at the 15 right here, if you come down the 15 and you exit right here and you turn left and go under the freeway, you get on the main road right here, here's the hotel. There's the hotel. And look right next to it. This is modern now too. There's the dirt lot. It's still there. The dirt lot is still there. This is where we were sleeping. And I wonder if I can get a street view here. Here's the street view of the dirt lot. And then see how it's got outside rooms. That's where we saw the maid. And we were in the car somewhere in this area in the dirt lot when she looked over there and she went to go talk to the maid. This is where it was. Now I remember this Best Western. This is their new logo. This was all yellow. The funny thing about us living in this town is when we were on the other direction going toward Chicago, for whatever reason, we stopped on the side of the road and took a picture of me standing in front of the Welcome to Utah sign. Out of all the states we went across, that's the only one we took a picture in front of. Now keep in mind back then we didn't take a lot of pictures because we didn't always have a camera with us. You had to pay for film, and then if you did take pictures, you had to go get that film developed. All this cost money, and most people didn't do that. Most of the time, you had some type of camera that you would break out for birthdays and Christmases, and you'd put it back in the drawer, and you'd break it out again for birthdays and Christmases, and you'd go get that film developed, and you'd have like 3 years of Christmases on this roll of film. That's how most people were that were like us that couldn't afford that stuff. So for whatever reason, we take one picture and it's me standing in front of the Utah sign. I found that kind of funny. I'm wearing a red bandana as a belt. I'm wearing Vans and Levi 501 button flies. And where it says Utah welcomes you. Now I want to show something on this. These are wood. These are wood pillars holding the sign up. That's exactly like what I ran through when I ran off the road. I ran through a sign like this and broke the wood, and the sign hit the car and woke her up. But you can see there's like this little trailer park right here. And you can see up here, if I can zoom in, sorry, it gets kind of blurry. There's a Motel 6 sign, and then you can see these rocks right here where it's like flat and then a gap and then flat. Well, we can go on here, check it out. Obviously, this is 40 something years later. There's the Welcome to Utah sign. Now this is on the 80, just leaving Nevada, entering like right when you enter Utah. There is the rocks, the flat and then the gap and then the flat, and there's still a Motel 6 there. And there's still what looks like a type of trailer park or something right there. That's pretty cool. Obviously everything's different, but it's just kind of funny how like it's not the same, but it's the same because you still have the Motel 6 and the rocks. Let's go back to that picture again real quick. There's the Motel 6 picture and the rocks. And if we zoom out, I don't think there's, yeah, you can't see any other buildings. This is it. It'd be cool if we could like turn and look around and see what else was here at this time. Like Taco Burger, next exit. That sign ain't there no more. That's hilarious. Taco Burger. But anyway, I thought that was cool, being able to find stuff like that, and that we even have these pictures. We don't have hardly any pictures, but it was cool being able to see that. So things are going really good. We're making good money. We have a place to live. The problem is in this particular city, it's a tourist city. It's on the main freeway. It's a little town. It's one of those places like when you're going across the country, you see a gas station in the middle of nowhere. It's like that. It's this little town. It's a tourist town, but there's no tourist stuff there. It's just for people to get gas and sleep at the hotel and go through. So in the summer, you're going to make a lot of money because there's a lot of business. In the winter, you're hardly going to make any money because there's going to be no hours. There's going to be no people. And they told us when we got there, they said, look, save your money for the winter time because you have a propane tank for the heater. You need to really save up and plan for not being a full-time job for the whole winter. That's pretty tough to do, especially when you have a high-priced chick. Vivian was also a troublemaker, and she'd be the type of chick that's like, well, my boyfriend will beat up your boyfriend. Come here, fight each... Like, she'd get me in trouble all the time. I don't even know if any of this stuff is true, but she told me a bunch of stuff. I wasn't working this day. So when she was working and I wasn't, I'd come in to pick her up, but I'd go in early and sit at like the bar, and then she'd serve me, and then, you know, I would eat before she would finish her shift. I don't know what she said. She told me something. I'm in the restaurant. It's a full restaurant. This is dinner time. I get up from the bar. I kick open the kitchen doors, and I go in there. Next thing you know, me and one of the cooks, we're just fist fighting in the kitchen. This is a mess. And he's got me pretty good though, because, you know, I'm just a kid. This guy just got out of prison. We're sitting there fist fighting in the kitchen. I wasn't even working that day. Sometime later in life, I'm working. I was a dishwasher, and they have those plates. I guess you call them like Denny's. I don't know. It's like white. It's not China. I don't know what it is. They're white plates that all the restaurants have. You know, and I used to carry stacks of them. I'm young and I'm strong. And you're trying to work, especially dinner crowd, dinner and breakfast, you're working hard. You got to really keep up. So I'm doing what I'm doing. And when you're in a restaurant kitchen, not just this one, I've worked in many restaurants before, you kind of skate around the floor. You have to be very careful in the kitchen. It's slippery. There's grease behind the stove. There's water over here. You have to be very careful. And I was carrying a big old stack of dishes one time. You had to put certain ones in certain areas. I was going toward where the stove was because the cooks would grab plates, put stuff on them, slide them down. I'm walking toward the stove. Next thing you know, I'm on the floor. That whole stack of plates is broken, and I'm laying on the floor. I'm like, man, my leg is wet. Did I fall in water? And I look, and my pants are just covered in blood. And this guy comes up and he looks at me really quick, and there's a hole in my pants on my knee, and he rips it open. He looks at it, and my knee is just open. It's just opened up. A plate had broke and made like a triangle, and it went straight down into my knee. It cut my pants, and it cut my knee open. And when he saw it, he looked at me when I was on the floor. This all happens in like a flash of like a second or two. It's like boom, 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 boom. And he goes, he looks at it, and he just picks me up and puts me in the back of his pickup truck and drives me to the hospital. That's the same guy I was just fighting with earlier. It's not the same day. This is like later, but that was the same guy. So now he's, you know, I guess, I don't know if we're friends. I don't remember any of that stuff. But he picks me up. He takes me to the hospital. I had to get stitches inside and outside of my left knee. And I still have scars on it where the stitches were on the outside. But I wanted to tell that story because it was the same guy. I thought that was kind of funny. It's kind of cool in a way. But that's how things were back in the day too. Like if you had an argument with somebody, and they do this in the movie Secondhand Lions too, you might actually fight somebody, you know, to teach them a lesson. But then when you were done, you'd be like, hey, look, you know, don't do that anymore. Next thing you know, you don't have to be friends, but you're not fighting each other anymore. You don't hate each other and want to kill each other. That's not how things were back then. They do that in the movie Secondhand Lions. They're in the bar fighting the guy, and then they make them follow them to their house, and he puts steak on the guys' faces because they're all beat up. The guys he just beat up, and he's talking to them like how to be a man. It's pretty cool. Cool movie. There was one time we were driving at night. We were driving home. We're coming down the road, and this car is coming at us with their high beams on. I'm like, man, I hate that. I really hate that. On some of the cars, you could pull it back so it just kind of, the high beams turn on, but then you can let go. It doesn't click them on. And I'm like, man, this sucks. So right as they're just about approaching us, I pull it and I hold it. I'm like, yeah, take that. And as the car goes by, I see the star on the door, and I'm like, oh man, I just flashed a cop. Which doesn't really matter. They shouldn't be driving with their high beams on when there's a car approaching. So I'm looking in the mirror. I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. Is he going to turn around? Sure enough, it turns around. I'm like, I don't have a driver's license or nothing. So I floor her car, however fast it may go. I turn into the driveway to the opening to the trailer park. We were the first trailer. This is all in one motion. I turn in there. I turn to the right as we're pulling into the driveway. While we're moving, I slam it and park, and I jump out. The car's still moving, and it made this really, really loud sound. And it wasn't skidding. It was just like the transmission was kind of trying to grab itself. It was so loud. It was like, while I'm doing that, I jump out and I sit on the porch. Now the cop is pulling in. I'm like, man, my heart is just pounding. Vivian had slid over. It's bucket seats. She jumped over to the other side. She turns the car off. The cop gets out. She gets out. And the guy's like, is there something I can help you with, ma'am? And she goes, I'm so sorry. I was flashing you just to say hi. I thought you were somebody else. And he's like, okay, have a nice night. And I was like, oh my gosh, my heart was just pounding. That was a crazy thing. But now I know while you're driving, you can throw a car in park and it won't just stop. It takes a while for it to stop. After a while, we end up getting this dog, this little brown dog. We named it Stogie. And we named it that because back then there used to be this commercial, the old fogey Stogie.
Nothing can get rid of these odors like Carpet Fresh. Rover, who's all over. The old fogey Stogie.
Stogie is a cigar, and he was brown. So we just called him Stogie. We thought that was appropriate. I don't know how long we had him for, but one day I was home. I was in the house just hanging out with the dog. Vivian was at work or shopping, whatever she was doing. If you've ever owned a dog, they know when you're kind of in the area, like coming home. They can sense that. It's really trippy. He had sensed that, and somehow he ran out the front door, which faced the driveway was here and the front door was here. She was pulling in the driveway, and he ran down the steps and ran into the driveway to go meet her, and she ran him straight over. Oh, that was bad. That was really bad. I was like, oh no, this poor puppy, this poor little puppy. And I went out there, and she was screaming. She's screaming and crying. She's she's like hysterical. And I looked at the dog, and I picked him up. I don't want to describe it too much, but all his middle part was gone. And I was holding him, and I'm just like, and it's just looking at me. It was, that was terrible. That was just terrible. And it just died right there. And I'm like, now what? What do we do? The guy catty-cornered from us. He was about our age, and he lived there with his parents. He goes, "Man, what you gotta do?" I said, "Man, what am I supposed to do with the dog?" He's like, "Man, you gotta bury the dog." And I'm like, "Where? I don't even have a shovel, dude. I have nothing. I don't even have tools." So he goes home, he gets a shovel, and he goes, "Man, you gotta bury the dog somewhere." I'm like, "Where?" I'm looking around. I'm like, where do I bury a dog? I look across the street. There's a baseball field over there. And I'm like, well, that's appropriate. I like baseball. I played baseball. I just picked him up by his hind legs like a rabbit, and I had the shovel in one hand, the dog in the other. And we walked across the street, and I went into the outfield where, on a baseball field where the dirt is against the wall, and then you have the grass. I buried him in left field in the dirt between the wall and the grass, right across the street. So I wanted to show, this is Stogie in my hands. And to my right, to your left, this is the pink trailer. And you can see this, there's like a little fence. There's a building in the background right here. But this is where we lived, right here. This is an overhead shot. This, in the middle right here, this is the trailer park. Our trailer at that time, this is an entrance. It would have been right here. Now this picture shows 3 trailers right next to each other. That wasn't there. I mean, this is obviously new. This is like, what, over 40 years ago from the making of this video. This is where our driveway was. So we would pull in here and just pull next to the pink trailer. There's a house right here. This is where the owners lived. They owned this trailer park. And that's where we went. We went into that house to talk to the owners about renting that place. But let's do a street view right there for a second. Let's go down the street just a hair. So this is the opening to the trailer park. Our trailer would have been right here. Now, if you look in there from this angle, you can see that there's trailers like right next to each other, and they park here now. That wasn't there. We used to pull in here and then turn right and park right in front of the trailer. And there's the house. That's where the owners would have lived. But if we turn around, there's that building. This is the building in the background. Let's show that again. It's me and Stogie, and that's the building right there. There it is. And if we look down the street, go down the street right here, right across the street, look at that. There's the baseball field. The dog, let's see if we can do this. I guess there's not dirt there. That might have been then. The dog is buried somewhere in this area right here. I don't even know if this fence was there. I simply walked across the street and dug a hole and buried him in there. But that's where he was buried. That's where we lived. And you can see the 2 buildings. You can put them together just to, you know, if just in case anybody thinks I'm lying, I do have crazy stories. Sometime shortly after that, we get another dog. He's a little black lab with white paws. Coolest little dog. We had just gotten him, and we named him Blackie. We only have 1 picture of Blackie, and here it is. During this time, winter's coming. We're fighting over money all the time because she's spending too much money. We're not saving any money because she's spending all the money. We need to save for winter. So we're just fighting like all the time. So we decide, you know what? Let's go back to our original plan. Let's get back in the car. Let's head down the 15 and let's just go home and break up. Let's just call this off. This is not working. So we both decided that. We both just got in the car. We just left everything there. We really didn't have anything. We grabbed some clothes. We didn't have anything. I mean, yeah, we had furniture and stuff. We just left everything. We take the dog. We get to LA. Now we're in Burbank and we're like, what do we do? Are we just going to break up and go our separate ways? You know, we just drove all the way to California from Utah, and you know how a toxic relationship is. You want to break up and then you get back together, and then you break up, and then that's how ours were. So now we're back in LA. We really don't want to break up again. We're in Burbank. We're in the parking lot of somewhere, like a grocery store. And I went to get out of the car, and the dog tried to get out of the car, and I shut the door, and I caught him like here, like on his arm, like on his paw, and now he's just screaming and yelping. I'm like, oh no, now I broke the dog's arm. But it didn't break. He was fine, but I was like, there's just nothing going right now. We have no place to live, and we're not going to be able to get a place where we can keep a dog. So we go to the Burbank Animal Shelter. We're like, hey, we found this dog. And they were like, you found this dog? Like, they knew. I said, yeah, we found this dog. They're like, where'd you find it? And I made up some story about up the street. And I'm like, here. So we gave him to the Burbank Animal Shelter. So that was sad that we kind of had to give him up. I hope somebody ended up getting him. I mean, he was still a puppy, and I know a lot of people, when they go to the shelter, they like to pick up young dogs instead of the older dogs. I don't know how we did it, but somehow we end up getting an apartment on Magnolia in Burbank above Glen Oaks. We were not there very long. We didn't have jobs. We couldn't have been there longer than a week. We didn't give any money. We did no first, no last, no nothing. I don't know if the manager knew what we were doing. I don't know what lies we told him. I just remember being there. It was just this empty apartment that we were in. And I remember we took Danny there because I was like, dude, we're back in town. Hey, I want to see you. We brought him back to the apartment. I was such an idiot. We blindfolded him because we didn't want him to know where we were. We didn't want anybody to tell anybody anything. That's stupid. I'm sorry, Danny. He already knows I'm an idiot anyway. We're still friends today, but it's like, I was an idiot. I'm just an older idiot now. So we just finally decided we're breaking up. It's over. Let's just go our separate ways. And she went back home, and I went back to my parents' house, and that was pretty much it. I've never seen her since. I talked to her on the phone one time. It was before we bought this house, and we bought this house in 2008. This was at one of the apartments. Once like Facebook and all the social media and stuff was getting really big, my wife told me, find all my ex-girlfriends and find out if I have any other children. That's a legitimate question because of the way I used to be. I've been getting girls pregnant since I was 13 years old. Vivian got pregnant twice when we were together. So this is a legitimate question from my wife. She's like, find all of them. Find out if you have any other children. I'm like, okay. So I did one of those searches and stuff where you pay money. I found her information, which was correct because I remember like her mom's address and her mom's phone number, all that stuff. And I'm like, dang, this says this is her current phone number. I don't know if this is true or not. Let's call it and find out. So sure enough, I call it. It was really her. This information was correct. And her children are younger than our oldest boy. So there's no way that they could have been mine. We had a good little conversation. It was nice. And it wasn't like we wanted to get back together or anything like that. You know, my wife is like really smart. And she was like, you know, if she asks anything, you just say, oh yeah, you were a very nice young lady. And my wife has a really good way with words. She has the ability to tell you you're an idiot and you're hearing it as you're such a nice person. She has that ability with words. She's really good like that. But we just wanted to find out if we had any other children. We didn't really want to reconnect. If Vivian wanted to do that, that would have been fine. She's got her own husband, her own children, all that type of stuff. I don't really want that there. Like, I wouldn't want my wife like that with her old boyfriends, like still conversing with them. And she wouldn't want that from me. So I don't think that's a good idea anyway. We just wanted to see how things were going kind of thing. So we have not spoken since that phone call. I'm pretty sure I found her online because this girl lives in the same city. She looks like her. She's the correct age. And here's some pictures of her. I'm pretty sure this is her. And yeah, she might be a pretty girl, but if you don't have Jesus in your life, you are not a pretty girl. I could tell you that right now. And the girl that I think is her, I could be wrong. This might not be her, but if this is her, then she's involved in stuff that she probably shouldn't be involved in. So right after the Magnolia house, when she goes home, I go home, I get a hold of Richie, and he was like, dude, you're back in town? I was like, Yeah, dude, I'm back. And he goes, I've got the perfect girl for you to meet. And he introduces me to Yvette. Sometime later in life, I'm going to tell the Yvette story. That is probably more crazy than this story. It's just insane. But there's a lot of bad stuff that happened. It's hard to tell the story and leave the bad stuff out because there was so much of it. But we'll see. We'll get to that story hopefully sooner or later. So I hope you enjoyed this story. Whether you liked it or not, I just tell my stories. I put them on the internet. Hopefully people can learn from them. They can learn about my past, because my past is like, I did a lot of stuff. I've lived a lot of life. Most of it was when I was young, doing stuff like that. I saw a lot of the country. I lived in Utah for a year. I've seen a lot. I've done a lot of stuff. I was a bad kid, but when you're a bad kid, you're going all over the place. You see a lot. You see a lot of bad stuff too, though. So don't do what I did. Don't run away with a girl and go across the country. Thank you for watching my little story.